All right, let's see. Looks like we're live on Periscope, and it looks like we're live on Facebook.
Looking like it's working.
Yep. All right. So give people a second here to log in. We're at a discreet, undisclosed location, keeping this interview intimate.
Oh, yeah. The FBI doesn't even know about it, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, let's get started here. I'm sure we had a few people respond to the Facebook invite, and so people start logging on as we go. We're not going to necessarily pay attention to the questions that might come up live. You guys can address those afterwards or whatever. Okay. I think we got a lot of content to cover here. I'm going to try to keep this under a half hour, and we'll just start going. So thanks for coming out tonight. We have 20 people on already. That's great. 22. Excellent. And then we're on Periscope too. So this is our first episode of Hear from Your Future Mayor. And I got to say thanks, Russ Fagel. This is a very grassroots effort to get people engaged in the process. Russ Fagel did this great logo for us last minute. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm Steve Shriver. Tonight I'm playing a community journalist, and I'm an entrepreneur and one of Cedar Rapids' biggest fans. And just a few weeks ago, I realized that, in 60 days, we're going to have an opportunity to vote for a new mayor. And this becomes a big opportunity for us to engage in the process of choosing that person, because this mayor is going to be leading our city for the next 4 years. Obviously, very important. So I'm doing this series for myself to get to know the candidates, so I'm better informed, but also for the community so that we can all be better informed when we go to vote on November 7th. There are 8 people running for mayor, and some of them you've probably never heard of. And so it's imperative, obviously, that we spend a little time getting to know them. So we have Kris Gulick, Monica Vernon, Scott Olson, Tim Pridgeon, Jarrell Robinson, Lemmy Tullihan, Brad Hart, and Gary Hensman. And so I'll be interviewing most of these people over the next 2 weeks. I've got a few still that we're working on scheduling with. So let's see here. Also, if you have the ability to share this right now and let people know what's going on, that'd be great. And because of the format and the number of questions that I garnered before the interview, we won't be able to respond to any comments being made online tonight. But we can definitely, obviously, have an online discussion after we do this. I'll post this, and it'll be on the World Wide Web forever. So tonight we have Kris Gulick with us. He's a local businessman, founder of Entrepreneurial Services Group, providing accounting services to small businesses. He's a CPA, a money guy. And since 2014, Kris has served Cedar Rapids on the City Council and is the chair of the Finance and Administrative Services Committee. Kris, thanks for taking the time to be here.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Actually, I was on the council since 2006.
Is that
not 2014? So 12 years.
Wow.
12 years.
Right. Okay.
And I apologize for the hoarseness of my voice. It's coming from the football game on Saturday, Penn State game. That's like
Go Hawks.
I strained my voice.
Go game. Hawks. Thanks for the correction. Definitely. I thought I read that somewhere. It might be on it. Awesome. So hey, let's get right into it. I got a soft opener for you. What do you get on your pizza?
I guess if I will eat pizza most anyway, but I have to go with my constant that I will always get is Canadian bacon and mushroom.
Nice.
Preferably, I like stuffed pizza, the Chicago style stuffed pizza, but
okay.
Canadian bacon and mushroom. That's kind of my standby that I go with.
Awesome. So also, I will say that all of these questions came from Cedar Rapidians. So
okay,
I might have thrown in a little nuance here and there of my own, but that was from Jesse Saubery. So another little soft opener here. Who are you wearing tonight? We have you probably know this. We have a big fashion movement in Cedar Rapids.
Right.
So,
I would have to say that's a tough question to ask me. But I typically am going to be wearing Holly's sports coats from local. These are probably not designer fashions, and dress shirts from Joseph Bank. I don't have a lot of really fancy fashion type things that I wear. I know, but we do have, Written Apparel. They're a great organization that started here with the Startup Accelerator. So we have some of that happening here. But I think it's a little bit more focused on particularly with the Written Apparel towards women's fashion. But I pay attention to it, however. Yeah. And awesome. I do pay attention to fashion. So.
All right. Well, you're a fine dressed man. So, all right. So let's. This Steve Sprague sent this question in, and he said, "Who is Cedar Rapids?"
Who is Cedar Rapids? Well, I think that's probably up to every person to determine who Cedar Rapids is. But in my mind, Cedar Rapids is a place where people want to come and live and enjoy life. We have, we call it the City of Five Seasons for a reason, and that's because we have time to enjoy. I like to say people spend time going and are doing and not going to things here in the community, because we don't have to spend a lot of time getting to work. We don't have to spend a lot of time in traffic. And so we spend a lot of time doing the things that we like to do, including work and raising families and having fun. And that's the kind of place that when I go out and tell people about Cedar Rapids, I tell them, how much time did you spend going to work? How much time did you spend getting to the destination you wanted to go? It's really, really a good place to enjoy things, and we have the time to do it.
Yep, and I like it. I mean, sticking with the roots and the ethos of the city and the foundation of the theme that's been, our motto for a long time. Yeah, cool. So let's get more into the nitty gritty of, the politics of all this. This is a question by Robin Tucker. She asked, what is the role of government in economic development? And what are your views on TIF, other financial incentives, and private or publicly traded businesses?
One of the challenges you have in any community, particularly in Iowa, where we're so heavily reliant upon property taxes as a revenue source, is trying to make sure that you're continuing to try to grow that base of taxes. Tax increment financing needs to be balanced with what is the need for that in order to be able to make a project happen. And I think there's some misconceptions about tax increment financing as we're just giving money away, but it's money that I believe in most cases we're trying to balance that we wouldn't otherwise be getting. Some of the projects that we have that are getting built because of that increment financing. And in fact, I've been on the council now 12 years. I'm starting to see, and I think next year we're going to see some big bumps in some of our tax base increase because of those projects that maybe 10 years ago we approved. And now they're starting to flip in our favor. It takes some time. It's not an immediate thing. I think we have to be very cautious, though, that we don't disrupt the market in an unfavorable way. Okay. That's a challenge with that, balancing the demand for or need for wanting to grow your tax base, but also not damaging the marketplace either.
Yep. So because a lot of people, why don't we spend it on crime prevention or education instead of putting it in the pockets of the developers? That's what I hear over and over.
Right, and the issue there is that we wouldn't have that money were it not for the ability to have us provide that increment and give that benefit to the developer to help them get the project completed. Okay. In many cases, anyway.
Right. All right. So this is related to development as well. What are your thoughts on green spaces? And this is from Eric Fisher and Ken Barker. What are your thoughts on green spaces, and specifically, how do you plan to fund the greenway plans already in place?
That's a great question. My original, even though I'm a CPA today, my original background was in Parks and Recreation. I have a bachelor's degree in Recreation Administration and a master's in it. And so that was what I came out of college doing, was working with the Park and Recreation Association, helping communities figure out how to fund their parks and recreation activities in those cities. One of the challenges that they have is, where do those funds come from? In our case, we're using general tax dollars for funding, by and large, a large share of our greenway spaces and parks that we have. We have a great park system here. In Cedar Rapids, it's one of the best in the country in terms of number of acres of park ground per capita. we're going to be adding 120 or 100 and some acres in the Greenway area that has limitations as to what we can actually build there, but we can make some really nice park ground out of that area for citizens. The trails are an extensive component of parks. They're just linear parks in my view. And I don't think people realize that may be one of the most utilized parks that we have in the city because there's so many people riding bikes, walking on the trail, doing any number of activities along that I think that people don't realize that. But it is a challenge to figure out how to fund it. One way to do that is to try to work with, on a public-private partnerships where we can get funding from donations and contributions to help support different components. I was speaking to a gentleman just the other day. He wanted to have more benches on the trails. He's an elderly gentleman, and I said, he said one way to do that would be to get sponsorships for those benches, and I think that's a great way to try to create an environment where you have the ability to build those things out. Again, building that tax base, that's how we pay for things. Without the funding resources, and going back to the circle of getting development done, without those resources, we can't do some of those other things that we want to do in order to be able to create an environment that people want to come and live and work and play.
Are there any federal funds being allocated to our greenway spaces?
We have some funding that, the acquisitions certainly from FEMA for the Greenway area were federal funds that we received for that. By and large, there may be other opportunities for grants. You never know. Okay. We continually have staff looking for opportunities for grants in order to be able to access those sources of funds if we can, and try to get creative with them as much as we possibly can as well. Yeah. And that changes, annually, really, in terms of the federal appropriations, as well as contacting, and using the state funds that may be out there for different kinds of programs that the state has.
Okay. Hot topic: traffic cameras.
Yeah.
What are your views? What are your thoughts? What's the future?
It has definitely made a difference in terms of the speed that was going on prior to them being shut off. It definitely has made a difference. The data supports the fact that it slowed traffic down, and we've had less crashes, less personal injuries, variety of things. So it works. They do work. I think there's plenty of information from the National Traffic Safety Board that says they do work. I think that my original suggestion when we were talking about these traffic cameras was, why don't we just lower the speed limit to 45 miles per hour? And people may go 10 miles an hour over, they may go 15, but they probably aren't going to go 20.
Right.
The DOT said, no, it's built for 55 and we have to keep it at 55, which would be great if it was people were driving 55.
Right.
But downtown St. Paul, Minnesota, 35E is 45 miles per hour as you weave through downtown. That was my solution that I thought would be a reasonable one, but we don't have control over that. And so consequently, we've put the cameras in, and it has made a difference in terms of its function and success. What happens down the road, really difficult to tell. My request would be, if they don't want cameras, think about what I requested, however many years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and say, could we try that and see?
Just look for another solution.
It's a really changing the speed limit is a really low tech kind of a solution, but if it might work, it may well be worth it if that's not acceptable for the way that we've been trying to make it and manage that.
Yep. Cool. So here's one on sustainability. What are your views on sustainability in business? Should we incentivize businesses to be more accountable for their waste, and this is saying solid waste or energy consumption? This is brought in by Aaron Hansen, who runs a local composting business.
Well, in fact, we have been incentivizing businesses when we're doing some of our economic development incentives. One of the things that we look for is whether they're going to have a LEED certification in that building, and that's one of the components that is an evaluation criteria you use. So yes, is it part of that? It's not all of it, but it is part of our decision metrics that we're using when we're looking at economic development incentives. I think it's better to try to provide a carrot instead of a stick to businesses because we want them to do the things that are good for the environment, good for our community. And so providing them an opportunity to put that as a criteria when we're making those decisions and adds that part of our metrics, I think is a good thing to do. It is you don't want to go overboard with it, because if you go overboard, you don't have to worry about any economic development if you take it too far. It's just like anything else. Moderation seems to be a reasonable approach. But we have been incentivizing people that are doing LEED certification. And that was one of the things that we did as a city when we were building these facilities after the flood, is making sure that we're trying to find energy efficiency. We hired a sustainability person inside the city. So how much more direction can we provide to our community that it's serious and something we want to take seriously? And that sustainability coordinator is helping, not only the city find ways to be more sustainable, but also educating the public and businesses as well to help us get down that path a little bit better.
Eric's done a great job of just inserting himself into the community.
He has been very active and very engaged in it. He's doing a great job, but it's not something that happens overnight. This is a long-term strategy that we have to take on. It's not something that is going to be solved in a year or 2 years.
So this is another hot topic here. We got all the good ones. So all these questions came in from people that on Facebook. It was a public post that I put out, and they brought in the questions. This is almost halfway through our questions. Are you in favor of a casino in Cedar Rapids? And if yes, why? Also, which one of the proposed plans do you support?
I typically don't tell people how I voted for anything, but I will say that I did vote for it in this case. I did vote for us to have legalized gaming in Lynn County in the most recent vote. The citizens obviously passed that, 61% to 39%. So citizens of the community in the area here want to have gaming in Cedar Rapids. So we certainly supported the project that was being proposed with Cedar Crossings and the original project that was proposed as a city, because they were the ones that ultimately got the vote passed. I'm not sure, were it not for the efforts that the original Cedar Crossings group did with the ballot initiative, that it would have been able to get passed. And so we wouldn't be having a discussion about another casino option were it not for the fact that they were involved in getting the ballot and getting the measure passed in the first place. I do believe the one that the proposal that they have, the smaller version that they have proposed to, that's next to the convention center and the convention center and the arena and hotel would be beneficial, because there's some synergies there with the convention center and the hotel having rooms available and the arena available for concerts and things like that. So it could help that, because obviously the casino wants to draw more people, because that's their their success is on a foot traffic kind of thing. So having an arena right there, being able to draw from, and you've seen this with other casinos around the state and around the country, where they have an arena or some kind of entertainment venue that is able to bring in people, which helps the gaming piece of it as well.
So there's, part of the community that's anti-gaming would say that there's studies out there to say that there's a net negative impact on cities that have gambling.
There are people that, and there is information out there from the experience that I've had, and I've talked to a number of communities around the country that have gaming in their community, and they've not seen any dramatic impact on it. These are elected officials that have said that they have not seen any major impact on it, as long as it was a quality operator, because there are some communities where I have talked with them and it has had a negative impact, and that's because the operators were not necessarily the best operators of the casino. It does, I will say, from an economic development standpoint, that a casino does generate some of that, but it's got a ceiling to it. And, there's going to be so much gaming done, and it's probably not going to grow tremendously. At some point, it stops. Unlike economic development, where we have a new entrepreneurial business that's growing, it has no ceiling. It can continue to grow and grow and grow and become a Rockwell Collins, which continues to grow. That's different kind of economic development that I really encourage, obviously, because that has long-term growth potential and doesn't have that ceiling that effectively a gaming situation does.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna back up. I forgot to ask you about your background a little bit. So before we hit the next 5 questions, and we're trying to keep this under a half hour to keep so we can just make it nicely consumable for people online. Can you tell us a little bit about your household growing up? Where'd you grow up? And
Yeah,
what was
sure.
it like?
I grew up on a farm about 40 miles from here, just outside of Garrison, Iowa, and had a sister. And we, traditional small farm at the time of the 60s and 70s, 350 acres, and we had cattle and hogs and chickens. And my mom was a housewife or farm wife, and she worked out in the field and did everything. And both my parents passed away inside of the last year, and so I've been dealing with some of the family stuff. And I saw one of their tax returns from the mid 70s when my sister and I were going to college, and I was amazed. I don't know how my parents put us through college on such little income that they had. It gave me a new appreciation for what they went through for their kids. They were big volunteers. They volunteered a tremendous amount. Even they get home, from working in the field, and then they get cleaned up. My dad played the guitar. He played with Leo Grieco on occasion. Nice. And he would go in, play at the nursing home, go into church and volunteer there. They still had a big sense of community, even when they were, dog tired from working on the farm. Nice. So I grew up on a farm, and then moved to Cedar Rapids in 1980. And been a CPA since 1986. I think I mentioned I was in Parks and Recreation originally. In 1988 is when I passed my CPA exam. Got on the city council in 2005 when we changed the form of government. And the reason why I had no experience in running for public office, and my reason for doing it was changing the form of government to a part-time city council and full-time city manager. And I worked with a lot of entrepreneurial companies. How often do you get to start up a new government? Yep. And what's really important is that you get a good foundation under you. I didn't know we were literally going to be putting in that many foundations after the flood, but that's really why I got involved, was because it was another way to do community service. My parents had done that for a long time and kind of passed that on. And so that was my way of doing community service, and I've been doing that for now 12 years. Nice. Thanks to the voters reelecting me.
Nice. Now you're ready to drop everything and make
ready to take on the next challenge.
That's awesome. So, all right, we'll get back into these tough questions here. This is we deal with this in a couple of our businesses, but we had Paul ask, how can we drive a stronger labor force? And he said, I don't know what kind of business he has, but he said it's impossible to find help.
It is becoming very difficult. We have very close to full employment in Cedar Rapids with, I think, just under 3% unemployment rate. There are some people, though, that I think we need skills matched, where they need some training in order to be able to match those skills. But ultimately, I think we still need to grow our population base in order to be able to fulfill the needs and demands of our growing economy here. Yep. And the way you do that is we aren't producing that many more kids, babies here, and that's a long-term play. So really, you have to build a community that people are willing to come to and want to come to. And then the next thing, which I think we have done, but the next thing is you got to promote it, and you got to get outside of the Cedar Rapids metro area to be able to promote it to others, including working with the university and the students that are there, because we've got some of them are already here, but then going out and trying to promote it elsewhere around the country so that people know that this is maybe not the Cedar Rapids that they grew up in, if they were from Cedar Rapids, and they need to take a look again. And then really promoting it to people that, back to that, hey, wouldn't it be great that you spend your time doing the fun things you do instead of going to work, and promoting that, as well as trying to draw people in from the coast because of the wage situation and cost of living associated with it. It's more affordable in Cedar Rapids to live with wages that are being created here than in many places on both coasts. And that is a challenge. Yep. And I think really we need to take advantage of that right now, because we do have an affordable cost of living here. Yep. Certainly we can do more to try to provide better affordable housing and those kinds of things. But we need to promote that much more outside of just Cedar Rapids area, because that's how we're going to draw that next generation of workforce. Yeah. Some of it we can do organically, but if we grow at the pace that we're growing at and have been growing at, we're going to run short of people.
Yep. And it's tough. We're all these humble Iowans with a strong work ethic, and we don't tout ourselves very well a lot of times. So
you know the entrepreneurial community though, the Nubo Co. and
That's
things
true.
like that.
Yep.
That helps draw new talent to the community. When people hear that from other places around the country, and they know that you've got a startup accelerator and you're trying to grow new businesses, while even they may not be looking to go to that business, they may take a look at you and say, what do you got going on there? Because I want to find out, and I might take a look at some job opportunities there. Then.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So we got to hit crime. Do you have any ideas to reduce the gang and gun violence that has come to Cedar Rapids recently?
One of the big challenges there is making sure that your police department have the tools that they need in order to be able to do the law enforcement piece of it. The other part of that equation is what I would more refer to, not law enforcement, but crime prevention. And one of the things that we have done back in the 90s, long before I was on the city council, was eliminated a lot of programming that was done for kids. And now, 18 to 25 years later, we're experiencing some of the damages that eliminating those programs has caused, in my opinion. I sold that when I was in Parks and Recreation. Do you want to have recreation programming and a program supervisor, or do you want to deal with having kids that don't have something to do? Our Northwest Recreation Center has a couple thousand people in it a day. So those are the kinds of things that I think we need to get back to, programming for kids. Now, the city doesn't have to own all of that. Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the Leaders, Achievers, Believers program that Alabama is doing. All of those kind of programs can help on that programming side of it, but we may need to be a facilitator in helping to have some of that done because I do believe that will help us long term. Unfortunately, that doesn't solve the problem today. And we're going to have to deal with that problem that we have today with our police officers and giving them the right tools to be able to solve the problems and deal with the violence that we have.
Yeah, it's tricky. 3 blocks from my house, somebody was murdered 2 weeks ago, and it's hitting all of us in a certain way,
right?
In different parts of the city, and we all just hope it doesn't get any worse.
Well, and that's the thing, because when we're trying to attract people from outside of the area, we need to make sure that we can present a safe community for them, because that's one of the key things that government does is provide public safety. And if we can't show them that, then that's a problem in trying to recruit people here. By and large, we have a pretty safe community. The data shows that we've got a pretty good safe community, but we've got to stay on top of it. We can't let it slide, and we've got to make sure, that we're providing the tools that the police department and providing support to the PD so that they can get the job done and take care of the issue. But going back to what I originally said, go back to some of the basics in terms of trying to help mitigate the problem well before it becomes one.
Yep. All right. So we got a few minutes left here. I'm going to chop a couple questions off. Again, trying to keep this under a half hour. We've had good viewership. I wish we could, wish we could answer some of the questions, but I think we're covering some good ground. So thanks for your time here. Man, I think I'm going to go right to the last 2 questions here. Walk us through your first 100 days in office. David Tominski over at Nubo Co. said, walk us through your first 100 days in office if you are elected.
Well, because I've been on the council for 12 years, mine might be a little bit different because I know a lot of the people that I would go out and meet with and have talked to them already as part of the campaign. But I think, they may say something differently to me once I was elected to mayor. And so one of the things I would want to do is go out and try to reach out to people and find out what are their thoughts on some of the things that we need to address in the community. I'm getting some of that right now, but that may change a little bit once we have some the election actually occurs. Meeting with the business owners, meeting with citizens. I've always had district meetings, quarterly district meetings since I've been in office. No other candidate ever has had district meetings every quarter for the 12 years I've been in office, 48 of them, 47 of them. I got one more in November. That's a great way to get feedback from citizens and get ideas as to things that we need to do. So that would be one thing that I would try to do in the first 30 days. The other thing I think we need to do is we need to open up the dialogue about how we're going to deal with flood protection and have that discussion, come up with a solution for it, figure out how we're going to fund it, and then say, okay, citizens, this is the way we think we're going to do it. Are you supportive of this or not? and get that answer made so we can move forward and deal with the other issues that we have to do from a community standpoint.
Yep.
That's a couple things that I think are really big things that are on the forefront that I'd want to try to get resolved, or at least move forward pretty quickly in the first 100 days.
Yeah. All right. And last question.
I have one last thing too.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be some turnover on the city council. So getting to know the rest of your colleagues, making sure that I can help them get familiar with how city government runs, because I have been doing it for 12 years, and getting the city manager and them connected so that they know how to work together. All of those kinds of things I think will be an important part of that job in the first 100 days.
Building the team.
Actually, shorter than 100 days, really.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Last question from Amy Johnson, who's had some experience doing this kind of stuff here. Why are you more qualified than the other candidates?
Well, Amy would know the volume of information that she had to learn in a really short period of time when she went on the supervisors. I've been working on the city council for 12 years. I've been in the deep part of figuring out how a city operates and how you get things done, working on economic development deals, doing business recruitment, helping recruit talent. All of the things that you would do if you're on the city council, I've been doing for the past 12 years. So my experience that I have alone is one reason why I think I'm the best candidate. Secondly, I think I have the network from my experiences working with the National League of Cities and being past president of the Iowa League of Cities that provides me a little bit different twist on utilizing best practices from around the country. And what are the things that other communities are doing, what is working, what is not. And I really want to try to leverage that network of people that I have established over the course of the last 12 years to help us grow our community and get us to that next level of success. And I think that can be done. And I tell people, so close your eyes and think of one of the best places that you've ever been. And I can guarantee you that it's a place. It's not necessarily a city. So we need to continue to create these places like New Bow, the Med Quarter, the Uptown District and College District, and Kingston Village. All of those are things that people, when they go to a community, they think about that. They don't necessarily think about it as Cedar Rapids, but I can tell you when I go to some communities around the country, that's what I think of. It's the place that I was at, not necessarily the city.
Yeah. That's what we're doing down here in New Bow, just trying to make that place.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And Cedar Rapids, the city, we helped put in the streets, streetscaping and lights. That was the kind of the initiative that the city council took to try to get things started here. Obviously, the city market was a city-owned building that we were able to help out with too. Private sector drives it ultimately. We just need to try to help stimulate it and help it be a catalyst for growth.
That's what I've seen is just around here. I mean, this was a complete grassroots effort, but as soon as the city started working with the citizens on this project, it just blossomed.
Right.
It's been amazing.
And that's how we have success is when we have not just the city leading this. And that was one of the things that was the reason why we changed the form of government, 12 years ago, was that we didn't feel like the citizens were having a say in how things do. We never, to my knowledge, we didn't have really that much in the way of open houses prior to the change in form of government. We have them for everything now and get feedback from citizens. And there's lots of different ways now that weren't available 12 years ago even to get feedback. But that's a really important thing because I got to tell you, we do change things. The city council does change based upon some information that they get from citizens.
So because you know so much about every topic, I got to squeeze this in because it was a huge concern for people, but streets. Just all the construction of the streets. You mentioned doing the streets.
You can't turn down a street that doesn't have orange on it anymore.
Right.
We have, when I got on council in 2006, we started putting more money into streets because it had been a long time since very much significantly had been contributed into the streets program. And so we were way behind. And so we are still way behind. We have a systematic approach to being able to repair streets, but the 10-year plan that we have is not going to take care of all of it.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to take care of, $200 million worth of a $400 million prospect probably. It's just not going to take care of all of it. But we are working, the engineers are looking at the streets saying which streets are sick and which ones are dead.
Yep.
Let's focus on the ones that are sick and get those fixed because they'll last longer and they'll live. The one that's dead is not going to get any more dead.
Okay.
So let's fix that one too.
Yep.
But we aren't going to do that one first because it's not going to get any more alive than if we let this other one go, then we're going to have a lot bigger cost. So it really is utilization of our dollars in a more logical and economic way so that we can get more done.
Okay.
But not everybody's street's going to get done, even with the 10-year plan.
Yep.
And the faster we can do it, the better. But contractors can only work so long, and we only have so much season to be able to get stuff done.
Yep.
This year, so far, looking pretty good for a season for construction, but that could change in a week.
Yep. Awesome. Kris, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
I hope it was beneficial to everybody here. We'll be doing interviews all this week, so keep an eye on my news feed for the future dates. I've got events set up for each one of them. Mark your calendars. October 12th is the candidate forum at the Cedar Rapids Library. That's where you can get to know everybody a little bit more as well. And we have to get out and vote if we want to make a difference here. So the election is on November 7th. We've got, 48 days?
Less than that.
Okay.
31, 38, and today is the 24th, so 44.
All right. So we got 44 days to make this decision. We've got 8 candidates, and we got some learning to do. So thanks again, everybody. See you soon. I'm going to turn this off.